Okay guys, well, I haven't done a video for a while. Actually, it's been a whole month. I realize now that I did one shortly before Halloween, my favorite time, and I'm still working this all out with the, my horrible audio quality. I'm still working out the whole thing with using microphones and stuff. I got so much going on in my head, I don't know where to start. So I'm probably going to chop up. I'll probably do a few videos. Instead of doing a big long thing where I pontificate forever. I'll probably do some shorter videos, or I won't do an hour and a half. So this is, I love autumn, but more than anything, I love Halloween, and I always get in a bit of a downer when Halloween's over. Now, I do try to stretch out the holiday. And I continue to play my Halloween selection of music long after the Halloween holiday is over. Though, all the same, I feel like it's a bit of an uphill battle because, Halloween's, essentially a year away now. And the thing that I think of is, wow, I got to go through another summer before I get to my next Halloween. And I despise summer with a passion. I hate the heat. I hate the whole summertime. And just thinking that I have to go through another summertime before I get to Halloween again, is kind of depressing to me, to be honest. But, after Halloween, consistently still play the things that I featured in my Halloween video. As far as the music goes, and the audio books and things like that. But, as time goes by slowly, they get, I do get other things in rotation. And so now, those things are fading back a bit, as they get a little bit less play as time goes on. The classical compilations that are really not Halloween per se, but are kind of marketed toward the Halloween themed audience, whatever you want to call it, still get some play. They're classical pieces. They weren't meant for Halloween, and I showed many of them. There's actually several of them called Witch's Brew that are different compilations of classical music that are tunes that got associated with Halloween or horror movies or suspense movies over the years, whatever. And those I love, and they're really best heard in September and October, and I'm still playing them a bit, but other things come along, and with a large, I don't buy many things right now. I'm not working. An update: I did quit my job finally right around Halloween. It's been a whole month that I officially resigned, which I had to do. I was out because of a back injury anyway, and the more time went by, I discovered in order to go back to work, at least that job, I had to keep filling out an increasing amount of paperwork to go back. Instead of just getting a doctor's note and something saying I could go back to work, it turned into a nightmare of this form, and I would get this form filled out by my doctors and bring it to work or give it to somebody to deliver to work for me, and I wouldn't hear from them. And I would call about a week later and say, well, you got the forms, what's going on? They'd be like, oh, but you didn't fill out this form. You didn't tell me how to fill out this form. You didn't give me the form. So another form would go, and then it turned out to be another form I had to get my doctor to fill out yet again before I could go back to work. Go to his office. It would take him a week to fill out the forms. It got to be a nightmare, and I didn't want to go back anyway. But I was initially planning on going back, but just the longer I was out, the harder it got to go back. And I really thought, hey, I'm close to a nervous breakdown here. This is a horrible job, and you're treated horribly, and the pay is horrible. There's, it was a bad situation. So, when I eventually realized I was actually on the cusp of going back, I finally got a call after doing, weeks and weeks of paperwork and going back and forth with these people. I finally got the call to come back on a Saturday. And they called me on a Friday afternoon or Friday night. And I just realized, you know what, I don't, you know, whatever money I'm going to get, because it was a possibility of me getting back pay for some of the weeks I missed. And I definitely needed that money. But I would have to go back to work to get it. And work there for how much longer, I don't know, before that money would come through. Because my plan was to leave anyway. I got the call to come back the next day, and it's just, I really thought about it. It's like, you know, I can't do it. So I wrote up a resignation, and I handed it in. That now was about maybe not quite 4 weeks ago. Time goes incredibly quick, and the thing that I've just learned, how long have I been on here? Maybe not quite 2 years yet. I think this may be the longest that I've gone without doing a video. And the sad thing is that I've got, obviously I'm home, I've got the time to do it. And it gets increasingly harder all of a sudden, or at least this is the first time this has happened where it's gotten really hard for me to get back, to come back, and do it. You know, I kind of been down, you know, I left a job, I don't have an income, future's very uncertain. Obviously, I still have bills. There's that, you know, that whole uncertainty thing is really bad. There's the time of year, you know, I love autumn, but, you know, Halloween just passed, and getting toward the holidays that I really don't like. Christmas has been tough for me for many years. It's... I don't know if it gets increasingly tougher. Last year was probably the worst one I had because I couldn't even see what little family I've got left because I got very sick. I got what I think was walking pneumonia last year, right for Christmas. Had to go to like an emergency medical facility here on Christmas Eve because I was so sick. And so the next day I had to stay home alone because I could have, you know, I could have been contagious, so, you know, I couldn't go see anybody. So that was the first and only Christmas that I was just home totally on my own. I'm not expecting this year is going to be as bad, you know, but I will, you know, get to see my sister and her husband for Christmas if I don't get sick. And I better not get sick because I have no health care coverage, which I didn't last year anyway. So, you know, when I went to the emergency medical facility, thankfully, it was one of those walk-in places which I'd never gone to before. And I got, what was it, Z-Pack, whatever Z-Pack is. I forget what you call it. Whatever that Z-Pack thing is. But it did the trick, but I was sick still for about 2 weeks. And sicker than I've been since I was probably like 8 or 10 years old. And of course, you know, for the 33 years that I had health insurance, I never got that sick. And all of a sudden, in the span of that was about 8 months after I lost my health insurance because I lost my job, I get sick like I hadn't been sick in over 40 years, maybe. Not expecting that this year, hopefully. So on top of that. My guitar neck snapped on my electric guitar, which I mentioned. I did, so that's been over a month ago because I'm pretty sure I mentioned, I don't know, you know, I might have mentioned it in comments. I'm not sure now if I mentioned it in a video or not. The music I'm playing in the background, by the way, is me. It's something that I did a number of months ago. Actually, the first 9 minutes was something I did a number of months ago. And the thing that's quietly playing, I can't monitor the mix. That's the problem. It's going to either be too loud or it's going to be totally unheard. I even did some microphone tests before I started filming tonight, and I couldn't get the audio right. But this is the first time that in the background, if you can hear it, anyway, from about the 9-minute mark on, it's the first time I'm actually putting something in the background of mine that's something that's only partially worked on. You know, I've put my own stuff in the background before that was completed, but I started working on something. And like most pieces, when you start it, you have a concept, an idea for it. and then it becomes something else. As soon as you start recording it, the idea goes out the window, because what you've got laid down kind of suggests something out. So I'm doing this piece on acoustic guitar, which doesn't sound like an acoustic guitar because it's processed, because I don't have an electric anymore. And I just wanted some volume swells, some almost keyboard-like kind of chordal drones in the background of a piece that I was going to play some normal-sounding acoustic guitar over. So I started recording the droney pieces, and not intending on doing another ambient piece. And the droney pieces that I had laid down, she did two or three tracks. I did 3 tracks of them now. Ended up sounding really good on their own, and I thought maybe I'll make this an extended droney piece, which is going to sound like keyboards even though it's all on guitar. So I have 3 tracks laid down, but there's going to be many more, and I think I may do it a multi-part piece. Maybe the piece that I originally envisioned with some normal acoustic guitar playing on there will get on there as well. But it's funny how, speaking strictly here to music fans, how this particularly droney piece as it is, it's very basic, because it's completely unfinished. I've just got the start of it down. It reminded me of something, and it's got for me, maybe not for when you hear it eventually, has a very melancholy vibe to it. And I want to say, to draw a correlation to something that people may know, I didn't intend for it to sound any way in particular. It's just the way it comes out after you start. I kind of, similar to, I think, Brian Eno's discrete music piece, which, it depends on how people view that. To me, it's a very pretty, 30-minute electronic piece, discrete music is. But it's also a bit melancholy and sad. And the piece reminded me a bit of that, or at least the way it's coming out, because it's not dark, really. It's not avant-garde, but it's got a melancholy to it, I think. And having said that, it quickly reminded me of something, and I was thinking initially that it was some other people's recorded works. But it ended up taking me back, unfortunately, to another event in my life, because the music that I'm in the process of trying to work on here has a vibe to it. Like many years ago in the early 1980s, long before the internet, out of a mail order catalog, I don't know how I came across this. I came across this electronic, little do-it-at-home electronic project that seemed very interesting to me. What it was is there was a small circuit board. I'll show you my checkbook. It was probably about that size, maybe not even that big. A little circuit board. It was a kit that you got that came with a circuit board and some little chips that went into the circuit board, like 5 or 6 chips that you put in place, and a set of instructions so any idiot can build this kit. Out of the circuit board came these 2 wires, and what the wires were audio. It was an audio plug, so the wire was going inside the circuit board, came out, and it was a regular RCA stereo jack, left and right. So the same kind of audio jacks that I've got tons of them here that I can't reach to show. But, it's the same kind of jack that plugs, tape decks into your stereo and, your turntable into stereo, all those kind of regular, normal stereo jacks. And you would just plug it into like an auxiliary jack in your stereo, or a tape-in plug onto your stereo, or phono plug, auxiliary, anything. Because what it did, it randomly generated sounds. And I guess each one of these chips, these 5 or 6 chips that you put in there, sounded like a note, but it could have been an entire chord. I can't recall now. It was a very thick analog sound, very soft. There wasn't any kind of parameters that you could change. But the interesting thing with it is you would just plug it in, and I'm not sure where the power came from now, because this is quite a long time ago. But as soon as you turned it on, I don't recall there being a power. I don't recall how it was powered. There might have been a little battery hookup to it, like a 9-volt battery. It would just start kind of playing randomly, and whoever selected these chips selected various notes that were all compatible with each other, because the notes would play very softly. They kind of fade in and out, and they would do so in a random selection. So you would have these 5 or 6 notes or chords that were programmed into this circuit board, and they would overlap each other, but they were all compatible, so you never had this kind of clashing sound. Which obviously somebody that knew something about music has designed this thing. And it was very soft and pretty, and it would play as long as you left it plugged in. So you just plug it in, or it could have been a 9-volt battery that it was powered from. And it was really pretty. And the effect, which I can kind of hear in my head, but I can't really explain very well, is very similar maybe to Brian Eno's discrete music. And you would just have these. It was really pretty, and it would just overlap. The different notes and chords would overlap each other, and there wasn't a whole lot of variation. So once you sat, I think maybe the length of and decay of the notes and chords could be the only variation. So you pretty much got a very similar listening experience every time you would plug it in and start it. You kind of knew what to expect. There was no jarring changes. Or millions of combinations possible type of thing, but it was very pretty and predictable. I'm sorry I never actually made an audio tape of it, and it was kind of, I tell you, I would think that it would be something that would be very good to meditate to now, if I had it now. But unfortunately, at the time that I got this kit in the mail, and at the time that I was building it, my mother got very sick and went into the hospital, and she was having all kinds of tests in the hospital, and she started getting progressively sicker very quickly, and she passed away within a number of weeks, all at the same time, right at the time that I got this little unit, and I was working, and in between working and going to the hospital, about the only other thing in my life that I was doing was I was building this little circuit board and experiencing that music. And because the music had a kind of melancholy quality to it, unfortunately, it kind of fit the mood of everything that was going on at the time. So, because of, unfortunately, the time frame, what was going on at the time that I got this little circuit board thing, and I was experiencing it, I always naturally had that association with that, with that music and that little circuit board, which I kept for many, many years. I had it in a little plastic Tupperware container. I listened to it quite a bit for a period of time, and then not so much, after my mom's passing. It was something that just would always bring that up in my mind. And I kept it for many years, was not able to really separate the two things in my mind from just listening and enjoying that music and the events that were going on at the time. And, eventually I kept it for many years, and in fact, I may have only finally thrown it out when I moved. maybe before, but not even a lot before, so I held on to it for another solid, I don't know, that was like 1983, and I moved 4 years ago. You guys do the math. 30 years, more than 40 years, whatever. Yeah, quite a while ago. Yeah, like 30 years, I guess. More than that, I don't know. You guys do the math. That was about 1983, and if I would have thought this video out, I would have done the math myself. So, you know, I kept it for a long time, and I just realized that I would never be able to separate that experience of that little circuit board and that really cool music that came out of it from the events that were going on at the time. So I decided that was just something to get rid of. Had I known the people in the VC, I would have actually sent it to somebody in the VC, because I think there are a lot of people out there that would have appreciated this thing, you know. And you guys all have stereo equipment that you could hook this thing into. There was nothing to it, and just experiencing it, especially for anybody who meditates, because this thing would just go. You want to leave it plugged in for 8 hours, it'll go for 8 hours. But the reason I bring it up is that, oddly enough, this little music piece that I've been working on all of a sudden reminded me of that. And it's like, oh. And, you know, and because I've had the time now, and I haven't been able to get my act together enough to really work on music, or do anything, really, to be honest. You know, just that thing is like, I don't want that to, you know, I like this piece. I like the way it's coming out. And I don't want to stop creating it just because it's got these, you know, this association now, that's not so good, you know. Nothing wrong with the music, but all of a sudden this piece I realized has that same quality that came out of that weird little circuit board, this kind of, you know, and I'm attaching things here to the music that, you know, aren't really present in the music itself, you know. But of course, you all know that, because anybody that listens and loves really just about any kind of instrumental music is going to have images and things that the music makes them feel that are associations that come really from their mind more than the music itself. And that's what's happening with this thing that I'm working on. And I'm going to continue on, because I'm not going to drop it just because of a slightly, I wouldn't say negative connotation, because there's nothing negative in the music itself. So I haven't been doing much, to be honest, and I'm going to break these videos up here, just so I'm going to get back in the groove again and get out of my funk, hopefully. And so I'm going to do a few videos in a short period of time, and go into I was going to do it here, but now it's getting to be too long. Do a video of the things that I've been listening to that are not the Halloween stuff that I showed in my video from a month ago. Been listening to a few things, and I'll show those in my next video, and which will be very soon. By the way, I'm very upset at a couple things, though. Besides my electric guitar breaking, a whole bunch of my equipment has broken, and I didn't drop it or anything. I had a very expensive looping machine, an early looping machine that worked, and I was very careful not to bang it up. It's been in the garage, and I'm thinking that I brought it in here, I hooked it up again, it no longer does anything. It doesn't loop anymore. The only thing that I could think of, because I didn't drop it or bang it around, is I'm wondering if, after being out in the garage for a few winters, I don't think the heat of the summer bothers it that much, because it doesn't get that hot in the garage. There's no direct sunlight. But in the wintertime, it can go down to 0. And I'm wondering if potentially the cold may have destroyed the internal parts of the unit. It's very expensive. It's irreplaceable because they don't manufacture these looping units anymore. And I had another thing that I bought, a very expensive volume pedal that I'll show here, that I bought just before I moved. This was a very expensive volume pedal. It's got a whole bunch of effects on it and everything. And I brought it out for the first time since I moved to use here. And this doesn't work either. And this was basically made to be banged around, and I never banged it around. And this broke as well, and my guitar. And this was also out in the garage. And I'm wondering if the scenario of the cold weather is responsible. So, I'm to the point now where, except for the drums, which I don't have to the acoustic drums I don't have to worry about, I'm getting to the point that maybe I should just pull everything in for the winter into my living room that's in the garage, my synthesizers and stuff like that. Because now I've got two expensive units. I could buy another pedal, but I don't have the money to do it now. And I did bring, I'm just looking at this guitar with the broken neck, and which broke about a month ago. And I brought it in today after staring at this broken neck for a month. I brought it into a guitar technician that I found just a few months ago. And I don't have the money to get it repaired, but I brought it in to see what he is saying. He said he'd never seen a break like that before. It's really in a bad place right at the top of the neck where the tuning pegs are, where all the tension, when you tune the strings, it creates this tension, and that's the back of where it broke. And he doesn't know if that could be fixed. And unfortunately, I can't buy an entire new neck for that guitar, believe it or not, without sending it back to the manufacturer, who would probably put a new neck on it, and then I would have to pay shipping, the new neck, and the labor costs, which actually would cost more than buying the guitar all over again, brand new. So he's not sure if he can fix it. He's going to try to glue it, but the way it broke, it would have been better if the whole thing would have snapped off. I would stand a better chance of it being fixed, but because the wood split the way it did, he doesn't think there's enough wood to glue part A and B together and have it stay together. But he's going to give it a shot. Problem is, if it works, it would be at least a couple $100 to repair. I don't have a couple $100, so the only thing I could do is I actually brought him one of my other guitars, and I said, would you potentially take this in trade, because I can't afford to get this fixed. And he says, well, if he can fix it, he'll think about it. He has to look, So I left the other guitar with him there, because he's got to run the serial number to make sure it's not stolen, and he's got to try it out, because it's a guitar that I bought from a boss of mine back around 1983 or 84, that he had used playing it's a Fender Telecaster, which is actually a better guitar than the Casio that I brought into him, but I love the way it sounds, but I don't like the way the neck feels and the way it plays. So I haven't used it for years. In fact, I just lent it out to people to use at various points because I wasn't using it anymore. And it doesn't have a guitar synthesizer hooked up to it like my main guitar does. So it was probably a mistake because it's been altered and the guy refinished it and everything. I could probably sell it and get a hell of a lot more than $200 for it, but I don't want to sell it. I don't want people coming into my house and trying out my guitar and all this shit. It's an ugly thing. So I've had this guitar, and I really wanted to keep it for a backup because it has a great tone, a great clean tone for jazzy, clean playing. What I do, I don't have the money to get the other one fixed. So keep your fingers crossed that the other one can get fixed. It doesn't look good. If it can get fixed, which he's not even sure of, it's going to take a few weeks to find out. And keep your fingers crossed that he'll accept the Telecaster in trade, because that's the only way that I could potentially pay for the repair. and I'll be out of guitar, but you know, what can I do? Anyway, I wanted to keep this under a half hour, break things into segments here. And so this will be, I guess this will be my update of what's a bit of what's been going on. And I'm going to do another one. Maybe I'll show a couple things that I've been listening to, you know, that's apart from the stuff that I showed last time. And that's. I hope everybody's doing okay. And I hope to be a bit more active in the VC stuff that's going on. I just haven't been, unfortunately, in the right frame of mind. But I'm certainly grateful that you guys are out there, and you know, I've been going back and forth on emails with a couple folks, which has really been my saving grace for this last couple months, actually, really since September. Okay, that's what I'm going to do now. I'm going to do another video real soon, like within a day or even less, and so I wanted to keep this, you know, under 3 hours. I'll be back soon, guys. Talk to you later. Bye.